Welcome, mental health warriors. You are listening to Crafting Mental Health. Hey there, friends, family, and most of all, my mental health warriors. I hope you guys are having a great week so far, a great start to the week. And I am hoping that you guys had a wonderful weekend and a wonderful week last week. In my life particular, last week was one crazy busy week with my son's sports and everything, but I wouldn't trade it for the world. I love going and watching him play and watching him enjoy everything that he does in life. Anyway, I'm digressing. And so first things first, if you guys would like to share this podcast with friends or anybody who you think would benefit from listening to the episodes, please feel free to share it with anybody, or you can even share it on social media. You can tag me in it, or you can send me personal messages, however you want to connect, that's fine. I do want to just say that, like I say in most of my episodes, I am not a medical professional or a doctor or anything. The information that I talk about on the podcast is in a lot of times it's, my opinion or my own experience that I've had, or it's from the research that I've done. So yeah, just do want to say that, I'm not a doctor. I am just a regular person like everybody else. And I, suffer with bipolar 2 and, depression and anxiety and all that fun stuff. So, so a lot of the things I talk about is just my experience. And today's topic is no different than all that. As you guys have seen the name of this episode, I'm sure you guys have realized what the topic's about. And to that point, just want to let everybody who's listening know that this might be a trigger for somebody. And if talking about suicide could be a trigger for you, please listen with with caution, I guess is the right word to say, or right way to say it. And if you're not comfortable listening to this episode, there will be no hard feelings if you skip this week. I know talking about suicide or suicide ideation is a real hard topic to talk about. It is uncomfortable. But I think that's part of breaking the stigma, is talking about it. And, breaking the stigma of what people think about it, breaking the shame that goes with the thoughts that you have, because in some cases you can't help having these thoughts. So before we get started, I do want to share some resources. If you or someone that is thinking about suicide, or threatening to do it, or you worried that a friend is going to do it, please, you can either call 911 and let them know. You can go to your nearest emergency room. You can go to your doctor. There's a suicide crisis line, which that number is 988. You just dial that number, and it's 24/7. There will be someone answering the call, and to talk with you. And also, I know for some people like to, pray about situations that they're going through. There's the radio station that I listen to quite a lot is K-Love, and they have pastors on staff that is available 24/7 that you can call and talk with them and ask them to pray with you, or to just talk through whatever it is that you're going through in that moment. And if you want to reach out to them, the K-Love pastors, their number is 800-525-5683. Their number again, 800-525-5683. So there are a couple other different places that you can reach out to for transgender people. Y'all can reach out to 877-565-8860, and you will have someone that answers the phone who are either transgender transgender, or non-binary. So you can talk to somebody who would totally understand what it is that you're going through. Then there's also the National Alliance of Mental Illness, which is NAMI for short. That number is 800-950-NAMI or 800-950-6264. And then, as I mentioned, the suicide hotline is 988. And I know some of you don't like talking to people, especially when you're going through something like this. You're embarrassed or you feel ashamed. There's also a text line. It's called the crisis text line. And that number that you can text is 741-741. So it's just those three numbers repeated, 741-741. And guys, please, if you are thinking about suicide or you're making a plan to do it, or you're afraid of yourself that you might do it, or you know someone that's been making jokes about it or threatening to do it, or you worried about somebody, please, please, please reach out. Because, suicide can be prevented. And, if you're somebody who is having those thoughts right now, just know that if you go and talk to a doctor or a therapist and tell them the thoughts that you are having, they're not going to lock you up and put you in a mental institution or anything like that. They're going to listen to you and they're going to ask you some questions to see whereabout are you and, how much of a risk you are at that point in time of hurting yourself or hurting other people. And they're going to help you. They're going to tell you what you can do, what you need to do. They can, they can put you in contact with people that can be with you so that you're not alone. And yeah, in some instances, it might not be a bad idea to be in the hospital for a couple of days. Like I've said before, when you have mental health issues, it is the exact same thing as having physical health things. If you have pneumonia and it's severe pneumonia, what are they going to do? They're going to put you in the hospital. You're going to be in the hospital for a little while, and then once you're better, you get to go home. Or if you have a heart issue, you have a blocked artery or whatever, they're going to put you in the hospital. They're going to give you the treatment, the surgeries, or whatever it is that you need. And then once you are well enough to go home, they will send you home. Are you going to be 100% perfect by the time you go home? No. You have to recover and heal and do all the things, the physical therapy and the exercises and all of those things. You got to go home and do those things. And the same is true with mental health. If you have, if your mental health gets to a point where you do need to go to the hospital, then that's okay, because going to the hospital can save your life. And there's no shame, and there should be no shame in asking for that kind of help. I have a friend, I've mentioned her before, and I am planning on having an interview with her, that she ended up having a stay in a mental hospital for a couple of days. She said that knowing today what she knows, she would do that again. She would go to the hospital again. It was not the easiest thing to do. It was super hard. It was frustrating because you don't want to be in the hospital, but she would do it again simply because it saved her life. And at the end of the day, like I say, when you go to the hospital because you're sick or you're bleeding or whatever, you go there because they're going to save your life. And the same is true with if you have mental health issues and you are suicidal or have suicidal thoughts. If you need to go to the hospital, they will help you. Well, they should help you at least. And, they'll save your life. But in a lot of instances, when you do have a suicidal ideation or, suicidal thoughts, it doesn't need to end up, you don't need to end up in the hospital. You can go to your doctor and you can talk with your doctor, and they can either suggest medication or therapy. Talk therapy can help too. You don't always have to have medication. But again, there's nothing wrong to be on medication. Sometimes you just need to be on medication for a little while until you get through the worst of it and figure out how to manage the symptoms or the thoughts, and figure out what it is that you need to do, and then you can slowly get off the medication. In my past, I've dealt with depression for many years, and since I was a teenager, to be honest. And many times I would be on medication, and then the doctors would say, okay, you're doing better, let's wean you off the medication. Then I'll be off medication for several years, and then unfortunately life happens and I end up having to get back onto medication. So, and at the end of the day, if you are just going to your doctors and being honest and truthful about what it is you're feeling and thinking, then they can help you. And if you find doctors that are not helping you the way you feel you need help, then advocate for yourself and please, go find another doctor. And if you need someone to be there with you and you don't have someone, call me. I'll come and sit with you, and I'll come and be with you and help you what it is that you need help with. Okay? But please reach out to somebody, and reach out to those numbers that I've given you guys as well. All right. So back to the topic, like suicidal ideation, or, what is it? What is it? What does it look like? So basically, suicidal ideation is you're thinking about suicide. You're thinking about killing yourself. You're thinking about wanting to be dead, or not wanting to be here anymore, or wanting the pain to stop. And in a lot of instances, it's not even thinking about dying. It's more thinking about just wanting the pain to stop. And, how can I make the pain stop? And then, a lot of times people would say they feel empty or hopeless, or they even feel guilty, or they have shame, or they feel, trapped. They don't have any options. Their life is so stressful and they don't know how to get out of these stressful situations. And sometimes even, your medical condition, like you're in severe physical pain all the time, and you just want the physical and the mental pain to stop. So, there's a lot of reasons that you could feel like suicide is the only option, but it's not. There are other options. All right. But when you do get to those points where you feel so low and so hopeless and worthless and empty that you cannot go on, that is when you need to reach out. Really, you kind of want to reach out before it gets to that point. But I'm digressing again. But what I'm wanting to say is, so if you're having these thoughts, it is okay to have these thoughts, but you need to share with somebody so that we can help keep you safe. Okay. So, let's say you have a friend that you're worried about, that they might, they might be thinking about suicide. What are the outward signs that you can look for in somebody that you think might be suicidal, might be thinking about suicide? One of the first things is people might talk about killing themselves, or say things like, I wish I was dead. I wish I wasn't here anymore. Some people might be using more alcohol or drugs because they're trying to numb the pain. Some people might act aggressively, more so than normal. They might be very anxious or agitated. Sometimes they might, retreat from family and loved ones. They just want to be left alone. They might have severe mood swings. In some instances, they might be acting very recklessly, like driving too fast, or doing things that they could easily get hurt or even, die from, like jumping off of, scary high buildings, or just doing things that they normally wouldn't do, that is extremely reckless or impulsive. Sometimes these people might change their normal routine, like the way they eat or the way they sleep, or they might be spending too much time alone, not wanting to be around people. That doesn't mean if any of these things occurs that a person is necessarily suicidal, but these are things that you want to question. You want to go to that person and ask them, are you okay? And researchers have shown it is okay to ask someone, are you considering killing yourself? It's not that you're going to put thoughts in their head about going and doing it. It actually helps them to talk about it, because once a person who has suicidal thoughts starts talking about it, you feel less alone. And I'm talking out of my own experience. I've been there. Before I was diagnosed with bipolar, there were nights that I was laying in bed, and for hours I would just lay in bed, and all I could think about was ways to end it. And in that moment, I was like, why am I thinking about it? It's not that I wanted to die, but that is just, these thoughts just kept coming into my head. It didn't want to stop. No matter what I try to do, the thoughts didn't want to stop. And that is when I went to my doctor and I said, listen, something is not right. Why am I having these thoughts? And, that is how we got on the path and how I got diagnosed and all of that. And, for me, having these suicide ideation is part of my disorder. It's not that I want to kill myself. It's not that I want to die. It's just that is part of the chemicals in my brain that's all messed up. And somebody who suffers from major depressive disorder, they have the same problem. They have, the depression takes over their brain so much that their brain is basically telling them that the only way to get out, or the only way to make the stop, is to end it all. And how I explained this to somebody the other day is that, when you have cancer, the cancer in your body is trying to kill you, right? And if you have a heart problem, let's say your heart, you need a pacemaker because your heart keeps getting out of rhythm and, doing all weird things, then basically your heart's trying to kill you, if you think about it. Or let's say you have, I'm thinking about other diseases, pneumonia, or you have meningitis, for instance. That's a virus in your body that is trying to kill you, right? And in a lot of instances, in mental health situations, your brain is trying to kill you. That is how I see it. And you need to go find help to fix your brain. You need to go find a doctor that, or somebody that will help you to help your brain to not be sick anymore, if you will. And that's why in my instance with bipolar, I have to take medication every single day. And I tell my therapist all the time that I sometimes feel like, why am I still taking medication? Because normally, when you're sick, doctor prescribe you antibiotics for 10 days and you take it and then you feel better and you stop taking medication and you're done, And I feel like with the medication I'm taking every day, it's just like, all right, well, I'm not sick. I don't feel bad. I don't feel horrible. I don't feel sick. I don't feel anything. So why am I still taking medication? And, she tells me every time, it's like, you're feeling good because you're taking the medication, right? So if I were to stop taking the medication, then sooner or later, I'm going to start feeling sick again, and my brain is going to start doing all the funky things again, and I'm going to be right down there thinking about suicide and thinking about all this horrible things. And I don't want to be there, because it's a very lonely and scary place to be at. Alrighty. So, question that can come up is like, okay, who out there, or who can have suicide ideations or suicidal thoughts? Besides, anybody can have it, but there are groups of people who are more prone to have them than others. Okay. So, in these groups of people is anybody with a mental health condition. We talked about this, depression, anxiety, PTSD, bipolar, all of these can cause somebody to have suicidal thoughts. Somebody who has severe ongoing pain, like people with cancer, The pain can get so much that they feel like that's the only way to get out. Somebody who's in an extremely stressful situation in their life, like going through divorce, or they lost their job, or situations at school is getting too much, and they feel like that is the only option out. The next group of people is somebody who had, family history of suicide. Somebody in their family has done it or has struggled with suicide ideation. Sometimes people who are, abusing alcohol or drugs, can cause you to be suicidal as well. Past traumas or abuse. People with past traumas or abuse can struggle with that, with suicidal thoughts. And then in some cases, if there's been a recent tragedy or a death in the family, that can also cause, somebody to feel like, they don't want to be here anymore. And they feel so alone, especially if you lost the love of your life, or you've lost the perfect job, or a parent passed away, or something like that. When you feel like you are left all alone, those things can cause people to have, suicidal thoughts. And then there's also, teenagers or even children that, they can feel a lot of pressure. And, teenagers typically feel, that anything that happens in their life at that point in time, they feel like it's the end of the world. To them, in their reality, it feels like the world is going to end because of what just happened, because of this issue that's going on in their life. Like, it's never going to get better. And because of that, they might feel like they just want it all to end. They want it all to go away. Or they might feel like they just want to go to sleep and wake up when all the bad things have changed, or when all the bad things is over, when all the stress is gone. Because think about it, kids who are, or teenagers, kids who are in school, they got pressures from, parents that, they have to do good in school. They got teachers that's on them all the time about having to do good in school, having to do all these projects, and having to do good in the grades, because the teachers are being graded on the students' grades. So that pressure's then basically being placed on the kids, and and then the kids have to deal with other kids who are bullying them, or they even have to navigate friendships and having difficult issues or conflict with friends or family members. Maybe sometimes someone has to deal with a family member or a friend who has committed suicide, and they got to deal with that loss and all the questions that comes with that. Like, what did I do? Could I have done something to help them? There's a lot of questions that come to mind when somebody else ends up taking their life. Then, there's teens and kids. They have their own mental health struggles. They deal with anxiety and depression, especially in today's world. After COVID and all that, kids and teens, people in general, are way more, filled with anxiety than they have been in the past. And we live in a very dark world in some cases. There's a lot of hate and a lot of hurt and a lot of bad things going on in the world. So a lot of kids, teenagers are faced with abuse and trauma, and being rejected by family and friends, or having the fear of rejection. That's a big one under teens. The fear of not fitting in, the fear of being made fun of, or in some instances being made fun of, not even the fear. And some teens will have fear of being made fun of or being rejected because of their sexual orientation or their gender identity that they choose to go with. All of these things, for those kids or those teens, in their reality, these are very, very valid things to feel, and sometimes we as adults struggle to see that. We struggle to see that teens are struggling with these things, and that, we feel like, teens should just say, well, life will get better. And I had to explain to somebody the other day that as a teenager, in that moment, you feel like your life is going to end. You feel like the world is going to end. Nothing is ever going to be the same again. Nothing is ever going to be okay again. Let's think you as a teenager, you go and try out for a sport and you don't get in. Okay. You didn't make it. Now you feel the feelings of, I'm not good enough. My friends are going to laugh at me because I didn't make the team. Everybody's going to know. Then people are going to bully me or make fun of me or make jokes at my expense. And all of these things, it puts a lot of pressure on teenagers today. And with social media, the smallest thing gets spread so fast that, and kids can be mean sometimes, a lot of times. And sometimes I don't even mean to be that way, but how another child experience the treatment or the reaction to that person, it might be not the nicest feeling. I mean, it's hard for me to explain what I'm trying to say here, but basically it's just, for teenagers, they feel things a lot more intensely than adults do, because adults have learned over the years that, things will get better. And it's not always going to feel this way. And you will get through this situation. But for teenagers, they don't have that experience yet. They're still learning that experience. So we as adults need to help our teens understand and help our teens get through these moments, get through these situations, help them, remind them that they are loved, remind them that they are worthy of our love and worthy of being around, and remind them that we want them with us. We want them here today with us, and that their lives matter and their story matters. And then, and this goes for anybody who has suicidal ideation. There's a lot of suicide prevention things going on and suicide awareness and all of that. And, I myself has the semicolon tattooed on my arm because I have to remind myself that my story is not over yet and that the world needs me in it. And just like every single person out there who is struggling with these thoughts, the world needs you in here tomorrow. Your story is not over yet. And this too shall pass. This moment of darkness and loneliness, it will pass. You just need to reach out to somebody and grab a hand, and somebody will pull you through. So now the next question is, what causes this? What cause, suicidal thoughts or suicidal ideation, meaning thinking about it. And like I've mentioned, in my case, it's a chemical imbalance in my brain. For some people, it can be the feeling when you're facing something difficult or impossible, that you feel like it's impossible to get through. Like, no matter what happens, you're not going to be able to get through this. Or for some, it can be the lack of hope for the future. For some, it's being unable to come up with a solution or a way out of your current situation. I can just think about, kids who are stuck in abusive relationships or abusive households. I can understand that in situations like that, you might feel like that is the only way out. But there is hope. Okay. Other situations or other causes could be, like I've mentioned before, mental health problems, like depression or major depressive disorder, or really any mental health disorder can cause that. And then there's a family history of suicide, or Sometimes medication can have an effect of making you more suicidal. And I know it's sad to say, but this is why you don't want to take medication that's not prescribed for you, because you don't know how it's going to react. When a doctor puts you on certain medication, they will tell you what to look out for. And in the event that certain symptoms arises, you need to contact them immediately. It's like having a allergy towards the medication, if you will. Allergic reaction, that was the word I was looking for. And you can sometimes have an allergic reaction to medication, and with mental health things, you can be on a medication for like sometimes antidepressants when you first start them can make the suicidal thoughts worse. Typically it's only like for the first week or so, and then after that, it all goes, it starts getting better. But knowing that this could happen, it's something that you can talk with your doctor and with your support system, like your friends and family. And this is, to go back to, being in the hospital for when you're sick. This is why being in the hospital sometimes is not a bad idea, because if you're in the hospital for a week and you're on the medication for a week, they can monitor and see how you are doing on the medication. Okay. So, but like I've said, it doesn't always mean that you're going to end up in the hospital just because you are having these thoughts. All right. And then also in some instances, people with a traumatic brain injury, or TBI is what it's called, they could also have suicidal thoughts or ideations. Okay. And some signs or symptoms, I guess, that you can look for that would end up being classified as severe suicidal ideation is if somebody buys a weapon, or they are collecting pills, because that's part of their plan. They're starting to give away their prized possessions. They saying goodbye to their friends and family in a way that they never going to see them again. They might be researching online how to end it all. They might be doing extremely dangerous things like driving way too fast. In some cases, with adults, they might be making out a will, or just doing things out of place, like getting their affairs in order when they don't have like a terminal illness. Those are signs that someone has gone from just having the thoughts to more planning and starting to get a plan in place. So, there's certain levels. At first you'll just have the thoughts, and then the thoughts will turn into a plan. Like there's not a date set, but there's a plan, like how you're going to do it. And then once you've gotten to that point, then there will be like okay, this day is when I'm going to do it. And then you start planning for the day. So if you're still you just have these intrusive thoughts or these suicidal thoughts, you want to get help. Of course, you want to get help when you're at that point. But if you start to make a plan and start gathering things for this plan, that is when you definitely want to reach out and, call 911 or call the hotline, or tell a friend, tell a parent, tell anyone for that matter, just to get help. Okay. And again, guys, there is no shame in asking for help. There should be no shame and no guilt in this, because in in all of these situations, you cannot help it. In your reality, this is how you feel, and your feelings matter. And I understand how you're feeling because I have been there. But I also know that this moment will pass. Now, this moment might take a while. It might be several days, several weeks, several months that you feel this way. But if you reach out for help, there will be better days. There will be bad days again. But like I said, this too shall pass. The moments will pass. Okay? The good times and the bad times, but especially the bad moments, they will pass. So when you go to a doctor and, ask for help, what can you expect? Okay. So first of all, a doctor's going to do a general exam, like to make sure that there's no physical things wrong with you. And then they will ask you things like, what are your thoughts? What kind of thoughts are you having? How often do you have them? How long do they last? How intense they can be? Do you have a plan? They want to try and figure out where your thought process is. How severe is it? Just like, back to the analogy of cancer. Sometimes you have a pain in your leg and you go to the doctor because you keep having this pain in your leg. And then the doctor does some blood work and he does some tests, and then they realize like, oh snap, you got cancer in your leg. And then a lot of times if the cancer is caught early, you would be classified as stage 1 or stage 2, stage 3, stage 4, right? So the same with suicide ideation. There's different stages. Now they're not leveled stage 1, 2, or 3, but that's why a doctor will ask you questions so that they can determine in what stage you are and at what stage, what kind of treatment is needed. Because if you're in stage 1 of cancer, you're not going to have such an aggressive treatment plan as you would in stage 4, right? And the same with mental health. If you're in early stages, your treatment plan might not be as aggressive as if you're in later stages. And by aggressive, I mean like hospitalization. The early stages of treatment will be more like talk therapy, just talking to a therapist, talking to friends, talking to a counselor, talking to your pastor or your guidance counselor or somebody that you trust. That could be like the early stages, right? And sometimes that's all you need and you'll be good. And then sometimes you might need medication. Or, you get what I'm saying? So there are different levels, different stages. And so when you go to a doctor, the doctor is going to try and figure out what level you at so that they know what type of treatment or what level of treatment that you will need. All right. But definitely, if you're somebody or somebody who struggles with suicidal thoughts or suicidal ideations, the things you can do to help the person or help yourself, okay, is you can get yourself a therapist, start talking about it. Then you can start keeping a journal. Now, I've talked to you guys before about keeping a journal. For me with bipolar, it was good to have a journal so that I can keep track of my moods, so that I can see like, okay, does certain things in the day cause my mood to be different? The same with your thoughts. Let's say it's a rainy day outside. Some people, the weather affects how their thoughts are quite a bit. It's called seasonal depression for a reason, because the winter months, they struggle more than they do in the summer months. So by keeping a journal, it's easier to spot, the pattern, if you will. Then you can figure out like, okay, what things are triggering your thoughts, your suicidal thoughts? What situation has gotten you to that point? Have you been watching certain movies or TV shows that is very dark? Like I've mentioned before in one of the episodes that I was watching a show on TV that I got to a point where I could not watch the show anymore because it was affecting my thoughts way too much. I was having extremely bad dreams about it. I was more down and depressed. And once I stopped watching the show, my mood improved. Okay, so sometimes the things that we watch on a daily basis or the music that we listen to, and I'm not saying it's like that for everybody. Some people can watch these shows and it doesn't affect them one bit, but then they listen to depressing music and that can affect them, and vice versa. So you're the only one that can figure out what is it for you that's triggering, or what situation causes you to have these thoughts. Okay. And then another thing that you can do, all of these things that I'm giving you now is called a safety plan, for when you start having suicidal thoughts. Is you have a safety plan in place, and it helps having a therapist so you can have a safety plan. They can help you make a safety plan so you can figure out something that you can do to de-stress. If stress is your trigger, what can you do to de-stress? Can you go for a run? Can you go to the gym? Can you go for a swim, at the pool? Or can you go for a walk in nature? Can you take a shower? I mean, I don't know, whatever works for you. For me, hence the fact that this podcast is called Crafting Mental Health. For me, doing crafts, making something with my hands. My hands are always busy making something. That is what works for me. So you can find stuff that works for you and that helps you relax and makes you feel better. Okay. And then the most important thing is to identify somebody, someone, a family member, a loved one, anyone that you can talk to that can give you support, that you can reach out to. I have a friend that told me that if ever I'm feeling, if I'm having these suicidal thoughts or whatever, she told me, Lenny, no matter what time of the day it is, you can call me, you can text me, I am here for you. And whenever I'm having those moments, I text her, I call her. And she does the same with me. If she's feeling that way, she texts me and calls me. So I know I have at least that one person. I know I have several people that I can talk to, or several people I can call. But I know in the scariest times, I can call that one person, And then obviously, you want to take active approaches to making your house safe. If your thought process is to use a weapon, make sure there's no weapons in the house that you could use for that. If, driving too fast is something, then maybe find ways to not needing to drive or get someone else to drive you. If medication or overdosing is something that you thought of, getting all those medications out of the house, asking someone in your house to lock those things up. You get what I'm saying? So making the house safer for you. Right? Those are things that you can do. And definitely, the most important thing is to reach out and talk to somebody. Ask for help. There is no shame in asking for help. I promise you there's no shame. And nobody should ever make you feel ashamed for asking for help. I hope the things that I was sharing with you guys today is helpful. And for me, this was a topic that God has put on my heart for quite a while now to talk about, but I've been, I guess, too afraid, or this is a hard topic to talk about. I do want to share, the first time I had suicidal thoughts, I was a teenager. I was still in high school, and I couldn't talk to my parents at the time about it. Because I thought that they wouldn't understand. Okay. But I remember I told a friend of mine, and I told him and I said, hey, this is how I'm feeling. And he actually told me, Yolandi, if you are ever home alone, call me and I'll come and get you. And even if we just go and drive around or go and get coffee, I will be there for you. And he has literally saved my life when I was in high school, because every time that I was home alone, I called him, and within 5 minutes, he was at my house. He picked me up, and we went driving around until my parents was home, or my brother was home, or someone was home, and I wasn't going to be at home alone. Okay. He helped me, and I will never forget what he has done for me. But also, he has told me one day, he's like, Yolandi, make me a promise that you will never take your own life. And I made him a promise. And even though today I sometimes still have the thoughts, when I have the thoughts and it gets so severe, I go get help, because I made this man a promise that I will not do it. And I will not do it because I made him a promise. Okay. And if you ask my son, I am very big on promises, especially pinky promises, so, and like I said, I made this friend of mine a pinky promise all those years ago. Now, it hasn't been fun. It hasn't been easy over the years. It's been rough. There's been times where I was in a very, very dark place. But I can promise you, and I can tell you from my own personal experience, that those moments pass. They will pass, I promise you. Reach out to somebody, get help. Those moments will pass, okay? It will get better. It will not be this way forever. I promise you. I promise you it will not. If you reach out for help, it will get better, okay? I know it's hard. Believe me, I know, but it will get better. All right. So like I said, I hope that I've given you guys some nuggets to use or to take home with you that you can use if you're in a situation where you overcome with suicidal thoughts. Just know that, your story is not over yet. The world needs you. Okay, you can make a difference in this world. You're going to make a difference in somebody's life. You don't even know it. Okay, but you can, and you're going to. Alrighty. So like I said before, please share this podcast with anybody that you think might need to hear it or might benefit from hearing it. And don't forget, if you don't have somebody to talk to, you can call 988. That's the suicide hotline. Or you can text them at, I believe it's 741-741. Or like I've mentioned before, you can call the K-Love Pastors at 800-525-5683. Or you can call 911. All right. And then you can also call me. You can text me. I will be very glad to come and sit with you and help you through this process. Okay. And guys, as always, remember that this too shall pass. It's just a moment. But also when you have good moments, cherish those because they will pass too. Okay? So cherish the good moments. Remember them. Make memories. Alrighty? And know that, I love you. So at least you have one person in the world that loves you. Okay? Even though you feel sometimes there's nobody. I love you. And I'm here for you. And I will talk to you guys next week. Thanks.